Thank you, Minister Lecce, for that introduction. He was my largest shareholder, so I had to be nice to him before, but now, now he's a friend and a partner, and thank you very, very much for that introduction. I've been in this room many, many times, never standing here, so this is going to be fun. Good morning, bonjour à tous. It's great to be speaking to all of you right here in the heart of Toronto. This is where I worked for the last 15 years, and I'm thrilled to see so many familiar faces in the crowd, including my Liberal caucus colleagues who were just announced. Thank you very much for being here and checking up on me. I want to offer a sincere thanks to Gilles, Roselle, Leslie, Dominic, and the whole Toronto Regional Board Trade for putting this great event together. As everyone here knows, the GTA is one of the key engines of the Canadian economy. It will play a very important part of this government's Build Canada agenda. From finance to advanced manufacturing, to clean tech, to AI, to innovation and more, Toronto and Ontario are not just regional powerhouses, they are key drivers of our national economic progress. I've seen this firsthand, how many businesses in the GTA are driving that growth and prosperity for the country. As Minister Lecce pointed out, one of my most recent roles was as chair of Hydro One, where I witnessed with my own eyes the role that Ontario-based companies like Hydro One are playing in keeping Canada powered, productive, and prosperous. This is one experience that I bring to this new government, but I've been equally shaped by my background, my roots, and the path that brought me here, and I want to share a bit of that with you here right now. So Minister Lecce referred to some of my background. I'd like to tell you about my background with respect to Ontario. My family's relationship with this province began when my father immigrated to Canada after World War II. His family were tenant farmers who worked farms owned by the Lord in the old country. But they wanted a better life, and they dreamed about owning their own farm, so they scraped together enough money to get on a steamer and came to Canada after World War II and started life over again on a small farm just outside of Peterborough. A few years later, driven to experience all this country has to offer, my father joined the Royal Canadian Air Force. I came shortly thereafter and grew up an Air Force brat, moving every year or two across the country. I've lived in small little towns, fishing towns at the southern tip of Nova Scotia with 200 people in a one-room schoolhouse, to tiny logging camps at the northern tip of Vancouver Island, and many points in between in growing up, including in rural Ontario. Living in those small towns shaped my understanding of the values of hard work, the importance of good jobs in the trades, and the rich cultural diversity that defines our country's regions. Following in my father's footsteps, when I was 17, I joined the Canadian Armed Forces. The Armed Forces is where I learned what service means and what it feels like to fight for something bigger than oneself. It was that similar instinct to serve years later that brought me to the Bank of Canada under the then Governor Mark Carney as we were rebuilding the Canadian economy at the end of the great financial crisis. And it was that instinct that led me to pick up the phone again earlier this year when Mr. Carney suggested that there was another opportunity to serve this great country in what he calls a pivotal moment. In between my time in the Armed Forces and this spring, however, I spent most of my professional life working in the private sector, including right here in Toronto. In those roles, I learned a lot about energy and the resource industries that are, by many metrics, the most significant economic engines in this country. I helped finance potash mines, oriented strand board mills. I did initial public offerings of utilities and uranium companies. I also worked on pipelines like the Alliance Pipeline, which brought Canadian natural gas to the Chicago market and created billions of dollars of value for Canada. Those experiences have shaped me, and they've taught me this. Leadership is not about talk. It's about action when it matters most. It's about getting things done and getting them done right. It's about building for the next generation, or as Indigenous peoples teach us, the next 7 generations, and being proud about what we're handing them. The Prime Minister likes to say that we're standing at a hinge moment in Canadian history. I think that's undoubtedly true. I'll probably geek out a little bit on economics here, but look, the post-World War II Bretton Woods world order is over. Global supply chains are being torn apart and need to be rebuilt. Our climate is changing, and we need to retool our economy to reflect that reality. On top of that, we find ourselves in the middle of the most devastating trade war of our lifetimes. It affects auto workers. It affects steel workers. It affects aluminum workers. It affects farmers and fishermen. And who knows where Mr. Trump is taking us next, and it could affect many, many more of us. This is a trade war we did not ask for, but it is a trade war we must win. Ultimately, we're facing a new world order defined by one thing above all else: instability. But here's the thing Canadians need to know. This moment is creating opportunities that we can seize. And Minister Lecce started to talk about that. As you saw this week, we are seizing the chance to work with our European allies on a new EU-Canada strategic partnership of the future. A partnership will focus on trade and economic security, digital transformation, and the fight against climate change and environmental degradation. And it includes security and defense partnerships, which is the first step towards Canada's partnership in the Security Action for Europe, or the SAFE program, which will rearm Europe and which Canadian industry will participate in as equals. Importantly, participation in this initiative will create significant defense procurement and industrial opportunities for Canada and many companies right here in Ontario. There is a saying that applies to moments like this: a crisis is a terrible moment to waste. We will not waste it. And I know we can do it because we've done it before. But it will take more than just resolve. It will take speed, ambition, and most importantly, unity. Unity like what we heard Minister Lecce just talking about. Canada has built fast before, and we can do it again. During and after World War II, perhaps the last time we faced such a transformational upheaval of the world order, Canadians did not hesitate. We united and did great things. We mobilized our workforce and industrial base with staggering speed. We built more than 16,000 aircraft. We built nearly 9,000 ships. And we built over 800,000 military vehicles. Canada, a country at the time just shy of 12 million people, raised an armed forces of 1.1 million men and women who fought bravely for our way of life. When the war was over, the Canadian government built homes for veterans who needed them when they came home. We retooled our economy, and we learned to thrive in a new world order. Through hard work, grit, and smarts, we transformed our country. That transformation built the middle class we know today. It built an identity. It built a sense of collective confidence that would define our post-war decades and continues to make us proud to stand under the maple leaf. As one wartime poster proclaimed, every Canadian must fight. It showed a soldier and a factory worker standing side by side. Now we must stand side by side once again, from coast to coast to coast, Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, industry, small business, and entrepreneurs. We need that same spirit today. And we will find it. We will find it in our communities, in our businesses, in our labor movements, in our innovators, and in every region of this country that is hungry to contribute. And I can tell you, I saw that in spades in Saskatoon. Your government is working hard to lay the foundation for just that. Last week, the House of Commons passed the One Canadian Economy Act, what I would say is a nation-defining piece of legislation. The Act is about building faster, moving people and goods more freely, and unlocking the potential of Canadian workers, communities, and resources in every part of this country. It creates the conditions to get more projects off the ground, projects that benefit our national interest, projects that will be sponsored by Indigenous peoples, provinces, territories, and most importantly, the private sector. We know that if we want to build faster, we can't be duplicating regulatory efforts, delaying decisions, or creating bottlenecks between jurisdictions. We must act like a single country, not a patchwork of 13 jurisdictions. That's why this legislation creates a major projects office that will coordinate and expedite reviews focused on how the project will be built, as opposed to whether it will be built. For proponents, they will now have just one point of contact to make sure things stay on track. Crucially, an Indigenous Advisory Council will be an integral component of this office. The Council, along with consultations with Indigenous peoples and rigorous environmental reviews, will inform a single set of binding federal conditions on projects of national interest. These conditions will include mitigation measures to protect the environment and to respect the rights of Indigenous peoples. To ensure consultation is done right, the federal government will also be investing $40 million in capacity building to strengthen Indigenous participation in the assessment and consultation process. Moreover, to continue to put Indigenous people at the center of nation-building initiatives, the first thing we will do is in launching the implementation of this legislation is full-day summits with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis rights holders, leadership, and experts. The first of these summits will be on July 17th, where the Prime Minister will meet with First Nations right holders. The goal here is to create certainty that catalyzes investment. As someone who spent most of my career allocating capital, I believe it's important that Canadians understand that to achieve the certainty that leads to investment and prosperity, we must reduce inefficiencies, we must harmonize standards, and we must improve transparency. When businesses see inconsistent rules, unclear timelines, or duplicative review processes, they hesitate to invest. And as everyone in this room knows, when they hesitate to invest, projects stall, costs climb, and opportunities vanish. But when our federal, provincial, and territorial governments send clear signals that we're serious, coordinated, and committed to delivery, investment follows. Certainty invites boldness. It turns ambition into action. It gives industry, investors, and trading partners confidence that Canadian projects will get built and Canadian goods will get to market. It creates the prosperity we need to pay for our way of life. I'm going to repeat that. It creates the prosperity we need to pay for our way of life. This act puts us back on that path, and crucially, we're going to do this responsibly, with transparency, partnership, the environment, labor standards, and economic reconciliation at the heart of those efforts. The Act also tackles a long-standing issue, internal trade barriers. As we all know, for decades, it's been easier to export a product abroad than to ship it between provinces. That is just illogical and inefficient, and we're going to fix that. These barriers have cost Canadians as much as $200 billion in lost opportunities every year, equivalent to around $50,000 for every Canadian. As the Prime Minister likes to say, we can give ourselves more than anyone can take away from us. This Act lays the groundwork for that ideal through greater labour mobility, credential recognition, and open trade across provinces, and by reframing the conversation so we can build things in this country again. This Act allows us to reset the narrative about building in Canada so we can go from delay to delivery. So what does delivery look like? It begins with a vision to build Canada into a conventional and clean energy and natural resources superpower. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that with all of you now, because in my mind, that encompasses two things: energy security and energy economics. Energy security means sovereignty over our destiny, our industries, our wallets, and our climate. It means being able to heat our homes in January, power our farms in July, and run our factories all year long without worrying about what's happening outside our borders. It means using the best and cleanest products, the ones produced right here in Canada. It means developing our unparalleled critical mineral wealth and helping the world transition to a cleaner climate without relying on countries we cannot trust. We will get that security and sovereignty by ensuring we have the ports, the roads, the railways, and the energy infrastructure in place to sell our products to our allies who share our values, not just our borders. Energy economics means competitiveness, using our natural advantage to drive investment, grow exports, and raise wages. Together, our products and our resources can make us safer and wealthier. And here's the thing, this is not just about GDP. It's about building the kind of Canada where a rising tide lifts all boats. I was really struck by something that Premier Wabkanu said at the First Ministers' meeting earlier this month. We've talked about Liberals and Conservatives. This is an NDP Premier. He said, this is a generational opportunity for Canadians, but also for some of the poorest communities in our country. If we can put the roads, transmission, and pipe infrastructure in place to build out those opportunities, this country won't just be better off in terms of GDP growth, we'll be better off in making sure every Canadian kid can reach their full potential. It means a kid in the north or rural Canada needs the same opportunities and gets the same opportunities as a kid in our biggest cities. That's what becoming an energy superpower is all about. This is important to me because I've watched this happen. I went to a vocational high school in Winnipeg. Many of my classmates did not go on to university. One of my very best friends spent 25 years on the rigs in Alberta. That job bought him a home. It financed a good life. That's how it should be. And we should respect the hardworking Canadians who do those important jobs. During this election, I went door to door in many ridings, about 45 minutes north of here in Markham Thornhill. I heard the same thing from many new Canadians over and over. We came here to build a better life, just like my family did 80 years ago. They know, like I think everyone in this room knows, that because of the opportunities Canada offers through jobs in sectors like energy, mining, forestry, we have the best country in the world. And that's what we need to protect. A Canada where hard work still pays off, where good jobs, with or without degrees, are available for future generations. Switching gears a bit. Now, when it comes to delivering on significant, ambitious energy projects, Ontario certainly knows a thing or two. That's why this province has been a world-class nuclear leader for half a century. The story of nuclear energy in Ontario is emblematic of just how Canada can do great things. In the late 1950s and 60s, Canadians developed the first CANDU reactors. 2 decades later, the first commercial CANDUs came online in Pickering. Since then, Ontario has become home to 16 of Canada's 17 commercial reactors. Today, 58% of Ontario's electricity comes from nuclear. The sector employs almost 90,000 people. It contributes 15% of our national energy supply. It adds $22 billion to our economy every year. We have exported our nuclear technology around the world, helping countries achieve energy security and avoiding over 30 million tons of pollution annually. And our reactors do more than just keep the lights on. They have made our air cleaner. They have provided a good life and livelihoods for thousands and thousands of Ontarians. And they produce a significant amount of the world's supply of cobalt-60, a vital medical isotope used to sterilize equipment and treat cancer. Nuclear power is one of the greatest strategic assets we have. It's clean, it's reliable, and it's built here by Canadian workers and engineers using Canadian uranium and technology. Now Ontario is poised to lead the next chapter with small nuclear reactors, as the Minister just outlined for us. Ontario is already building Canada's first grid-scale SMR at Darlington. I believe it's the first in the G7, as you said. But we're not stopping there. We know that Ontario is working closely with Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick, helping those provinces at different stages of their decarbonization journey build nuclear solutions that work for them. This is Team Canada in action. Provinces learning from each other, utilities coordinating on design, engineers collaborating across provincial borders. It's a model of what a confident, connected Canada can do. Of course, it's going to take more than one type of power, more than one solution to power a strong, productive, retooled Canadian economy. Canada will need to at least double our electricity generation over the next 2 decades to power our industries, homes, and technologies. This will require efficient, integrated electricity grids across the country, as the Minister alluded to. Our new government is committed to working quickly with provinces and territories on east-west and north-south transmission interties. It's part of what the Prime Minister means when he says one economy, not 13. A pan-Canadian grid means more reliable, affordable, sustainable power for Canadians. It means powering industries from AI to manufacturing, and it means exporting energy between provinces who want Canadian solutions. I also know many of you in this room will be involved not just with clean and conventional energy, but also in mining, another area in which the province is blessed with abundance. At the G7 2 weeks ago, the world saw what we already know. Canada is positioned to lead on critical minerals, not just in mining, but across the entire value chain. We can and will extract our minerals sustainably, refine them responsibly, and move them to market efficiently. During the G7, we announced a critical minerals action plan, backed by over $70 million in Canadian investments to support innovation, research, and international partnerships. I'll double click for a minute. At the G7, all of the countries said they wanted to buy Canadian critical minerals. Right now, at the NATO summit, what the Prime Minister is hearing is all those countries want to buy our critical minerals. This is an opportunity for us. This effort will drive global demand for responsibly sourced minerals, a move that could directly support new mining projects right here in Ontario. Moreover, we've launched the first and last mile fund to connect remote projects to roads, rails, and the grid. Simultaneously, we are backing Indigenous and community-led mineral development with financial tools, like the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program. We do not want to just be a resource exporter, we want to be a value creator, from mine to EV battery to a global supply chain. That is how we will build a stronger, sovereign economy and be masters in our own home. Beyond critical minerals, another pillar of the resource economy in this province and across the country is forestry. So I want to take a minute to speak about that today as well. Forestry sustains hundreds of thousands of good Canadian jobs, supports rural northern communities, and provides one of the most sustainable building materials on Earth. We need to treat our forest sector like not just like an old industry, but as a vital part of our clean future. This means investing in value-added wood products. It means using engineered timber to accelerate modular housing. It means ensuring Canadian wood is the first material we reach for when we're building homes, schools, and public infrastructure. We are already seeing innovation in prefab housing and modular design, made with Canadian wood, built by Canadian labor, and creating Canadian solutions. And if we want to build homes faster and more sustainably, we do not have to look far. The answer is growing in our forests. So this may all sound ambitious, and it is. And a key part of that is we will make this a success if we transform how we think about Indigenous partnerships and major projects. Indigenous peoples are not just participants in our economy, they are rights holders. They are the original stewards of the land, they are governance, and they are builders. If we're serious about retooling our economy, the economic reconciliation must be front and center in what we're doing. I've seen what true partnership looks like and how successful it can be for a project and for First Nations. When I had the privilege of serving on the board of Hydro One, we worked closely with Indigenous communities to build electricity transmission infrastructure that delivered power, created jobs, and built long-term prosperity in this province. I want to give you one example. Last year, Hydro One built the Chatham to Lakeshore line under its new Indigenous Equity Partnership model. That project came in a year ahead of schedule, and 15% below budget. And I want to be clear, those amazing results occurred because of the strong consultation and because of the significant equity ownership achieved by First Nations. Done the right way, First Nations involvement accelerates projects. It does not slow them down. To me, this approach stands as a model for how this country can and should build major infrastructure projects going forward. And it's not an isolated case. It's an emerging norm. And it's a norm this government is committed to accelerating. By recognizing First Nations as key enablers, and by listening, engaging, and building meaningful relationships rooted in trust and shared benefits, projects in this province and beyond can move forward on schedule, on budget, in a way that delivers real benefits to communities. That's why we've expanded and doubled the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program to $10 billion. Indigenous equity means revenue that stays in the communities and can be passed down to the next generation. It means generational transformation in how major projects can get done. Because becoming an energy and resource superpower needs to benefit everyone. This also means labor. Simply put, none of this is going to get built without Canadian workers, contractors, and skilled trades. Without the people who pour the concrete, wire the grids, and mine the metals and weld the steel, our projects are not going to get built. The trades built this country, and they're going to build the next chapter too. As Sean Strickland, the Executive Director of Canada's Building Trades Union, put it last week, if we're serious about building housing, energy, transportation, and critical infrastructure, we need to empower workers and enable them to move across the country to get the job done. That's why we're investing in apprenticeships, training, and labor mobility. That's why we're aligning credentials across provinces. So a red seal in Nova Scotia means the same thing in Alberta or Ontario. And it's why we're building strong partnerships with Canada's unions to get the jobs done right. So at the end of the day, as I said, we did not ask for this trade war to be declared on us. But we're responding with purpose and finding solutions that will leave us better off in 4 years and hopefully in 4 decades. We did not ask for climate change, but we're meeting the challenge with innovation and a mission to get things done right. And we did not ask for disrupted supply chains, but we are rebuilding them with resilience and creating jobs at home in the process. What we've done so far by passing the One Canadian Economy Act is not the end. It's the beginning. So I'm going to close with a call to action. To business leaders in this room, it's time to bring your best ideas forward. To Indigenous peoples, it's time to lead with your vision and partnership and bring your best ideas forward. To provinces and territories, and I know he won't wait long, it's time to bring your best ideas forward. To workers and unions, it's time to double down on your skills, strength, and determination. And to everyone in this room, it's time for ambition. It's time to be a real, conventional, and clean energy superpower. It's time to build, and we're going to do it together. Thank you.